Ending of the past catching up, part 1 down below. Half a year later, now that it seems like I may be getting back online with life. I have been presenting to her that we have so much to work through, and she agreed, but when she actually decided to plug into her feelings that she had basically set aside, she knew she had given up a long time ago. The past few weeks have been filled with her venting a lot of resentment and disappointments regarding my shortcomings. I, too, had my share of grievances. This last week, we hit this window of honesty where we decided that we needed a complete overhaul in this 17-year marriage, and just needed time and space to unravel this mess. Wife has been very honest about being on the fence, and I did well not to let that rattle me. I just really tried to absorb and validate all of her concerns, which I have been working through isolate my areas of responsibility. Wife also has been apologetic concerning her emotional abandonment. Yesterday, after several weeks of doing some very deep, emotional work, I had the sense that we weren't going to fix this, and then I just felt a wave of relief hit me. My wife called soon after and asked if we could have dinner somewhere so we could talk, and I just knew what she was going to talk about. So, yes, we are finally divorcing. My logical self wants to account for all of the wasted time, but my heart feels so much lighter. Thankfully, we are doing this amicably, versus several years ago when wife was acting out and unstable. Now, I can tell she is honestly taking stock of her life and how self-destructive she had been, taking me down with her. Me, who never had the tools to set boundaries and earn her respect. We are going to make sure that each are okay financially and can get on our feet and go from there. Good times. I am doing a lot better about not kicking myself. Things are truly out of my hands, and I am at a place of acceptance that my marriage is gone except the dangling issues of filing legal paperwork. I'll probably get into more details about things once the dust clears, but I am feeling more and more settled that ending this is the right thing. Sure, areas for improvement have certainly surfaced that I need to deal with, but overall, it's clear to me that my only option is to shake the dust off my feet concerning my wife of 17 years. Several years ago, I was convinced and ready back then to say it was over, but I fell back on my sense of commitment when STBX changed her mind. But this time, this is happening. This captain is ramming this here ship into that there iceberg. Play the music, get the lifeboats, and fire your flares into the sky. Today was a tough one. Lots of negative feelings are bubbling up concerning my STBX for certain reasons I really don't want to get into yet. But I am sure people can put 2 and 2 together. I am feeling very angry, but honestly nowhere to direct it, because it is not going to change a single thing about this imminent divorce, and I need things to be as they are. I think I am mostly mad because I felt like I was trying to jumpstart this corpse for so long. A one-sided attempt at reconciliation, albeit imperfectly, while wife just floated along not unlike an out-of-body experience, waiting to return only if the conditions came to her liking, blaming her loss of love on me. I took a long walk along the river and I must have appeared as a man with the wrong syndrome. I was so angry, cursing into the cold wind. The other day was the anniversary of my stem cell transplant. It was a lonely celebration, but I am grateful to be alive and kicking, cancer-free. Everything was just on pause during treatment and recovery, as wife made some strides to show she wanted to reconcile just as I was starting to get ill. Then she pretty much shut down on me as I had to attend to health, insurance, finances, bankruptcy, and then recovery almost entirely on my own. Now that I am doing better and we are looking at the future, she did a self-inventory and saw that she didn't think she ever had a willingness to reconcile after all. But her actions over the year pretty much revealed her intentions already. So, it was no surprise to me that it was when I said, "Let's work on this marriage," was when she decided to tap out. My wife, the one initiating the divorce, says she checked out long ago because I had been one she had been unable to connect with. That honestly makes me very sad. Like I really missed the mark in our marriage. I am not going to make excuses for my area of responsibility, but I do want to counter with the fact that I have tried to reach her, tried to make things right, but she had always retreated into this dark place where I could never reach her, enveloped in the surety that her life was cursed and will never get better. And it has almost always been like that. Her emotional withdrawal created an impassable crevasse where she just didn't believe that things will get better. She, instead, opted to do one of her do-overs, a behavior she had employed all her life. At the same time, if I had done something that had really messed things up for us, I want to change it. Her behaviors don't necessarily negate mine, but I guess I fail to see where I didn't try, didn't care, didn't want to connect. Also, she was the one who pursued EAS and found it easier to have online bonding with bottom-feeding mouth breathers, instead of having a real intimate relationship with me. And when she wasn't acting out physically, she was destroying our finances, running up our credit cards, overeating. I could never trust her to be honest with me, as if I was raising a rebellious teenager. I blame myself about not setting boundaries, not being more assertive with my needs when she was neglecting them. I am assuming that was what she was looking for. So, she is right, we have always been dysfunctional. I guess I just have to let her go, lick my wounds, and then fix this brokenness in myself. By now I existed just to help her manage her moods, it felt like, while her constant insistence on do-overs destroyed our finances and we never stayed stable enough to make traction. Of course, she blamed me for all of it, but to her credit, I allowed it to happen. So then 5 years ago, she wanted out. After going headlong into affairs, online emotional affairs, seeking dominant older men, I finally came into the knowledge of it. And then my questions throughout the entire marriage just finally clicked. Still, I managed to try to salvage things. I know wife is painted really bad her. But if you knew her, you would see what a dynamic, beautiful, intelligent woman with 2 master's degrees and natural charisma, and had a depth of spirituality, whenever she chose to employ it, was of a richer quality than anyone I have ever known, but she never regained her hope to try. Just held on until it seemed prudent, with my cancer extending it a bit further. Bonding now became non-existent because we never processed through the affairs wholly, and she just shut me out this past year and a half. Now she has a great job that I had supported her towards on this winding journey, where she now has the financial independence to move on. Had a long conversation with her last night, and she admitted she never should have gotten married. She felt very reluctant as the day drew nearer, sensing it was a doomed prospect, but she also didn't want to lose me, as she truly loved me, and still loves me, yet had hoped that marriage was the vehicle that would help her escape her problems. When that didn't happen, when the curse followed her, she lost a lot of hope, magnified by my inability to make her feel safe and secure. That is my failed marriage in a nutshell. How did I get into this nutshell? Right now, she feels very comfortable with her present therapist, so I trust he is going to catch emergent signs of a personality disorder. Took another long walk on the river and decided I need to start letting my wife go. I have been very concerned about her next personal direction, but I just feel like I have been struggling with not keeping her in the forefront of my mind when I need to focus on my own healing, my own future, my own health. It struck me that I am not healthy either, and even though I may not have been as demonstrative as my wife, I am just a part of this unhealthy dance as she has been. Sad but true. So, I have to let her go. Sadder but truer. I have the feeling it is going to be some time before I even attempt at a new relationship. No, and it won't because I will be pining for my ex-wife. In fact, truths are surfacing concerning her newfound liberty that is sickening to me. Enough to write her out of my life altogether. I am going to just assume that I will be attracting the wrong kinds of women in my life until I get lots of time and recovery under my belt. We haven't even filed yet, and she is already seeing greener grass. What the hell, I guess I can divulge, in her online interaction with some OM. Married with kids. I totally lost all respect for her, especially when I actually respected her reasons for getting help for herself. But as far as she knows, I am just happy and chipper about moving on. Not that she is paying attention. She is totally wrapped up in this guy, and talking with a former EA on the side. I need to get far away from her impact crater when her life falls apart. Yes, I have made plans to expose to his wife when timing is prudent for me. This cannot happen soon enough, but I just need to keep my cool and make sure it all goes smooth and equitable. Good God, my life is a lifetime movie. I admit I have been a partner in this dysfunctional dance. There is definitely a break occurring between us. She is pretty much doing her own thing and I have developed, in a very short time, a whole new network of friends and support. Monday, I meet with court facilitator and plan on filing either same day or Tuesday. No later. Then it will be about 120 days. Tough day today. Almost got into a big fight with STBXW after a little squabble, as we talked about how we want to divvy our assets and liabilities. It was averted from being bad with both of us recognizing our fears. Hers, the fear of going out on her own without a safety net. Mine, fear of getting screwed over. Still, before it was ironed out, we both bared some of our resentments, which left me feeling anxious and uneasy, combined with Friday's chemo injection. I am really tired of all of this. I think my life will have a whole less amount of drama when this ends. Finishing up paperwork tonight and filing tomorrow. Update, just filed the paperwork. And since we aren't contesting anything, 90 days mandatory wait period with next available court finalization date. Countdown clock has begun. Right now, we are still cohabitating, separate bedrooms, separate lives, having agreed to stockpile cash so that she will have enough to get started on new life and I can have enough for incoming medical changeover. I'm on her plan. So getting divorced means no more discounted coverage, thus I have to throw in for yet another max out of pocket, which you hit pretty quickly with bi-weekly chemo injections. Anyway, we have been getting along okay, but we did have a row. I know she has been acting out physically online, even though I don't necessarily attribute her initial desire to do because of her addiction, as I respected her decision to make a healthy step and move on, but my respect had since bottomed out with the discovery that she is ramping it up. The other night, I confronted her on an adult store charge that she responded was approved by her therapist to get a toy to help her deal with acting out thoughts. I knew she was going to handle it poorly, but I just wanted to gauge to see how honest she could be with me. In spite of how much I know about her being in a long-distance relationship with another man with lots of dirty chats and phone calls and photo exchanged, she sent him a pic of the adult toy she bought the day she got it. Nope, not a single word of honesty came forth. I innocently asked her if she was acting out, if she was using other men again. She said no and then said I had no right to bring that up. This was her favorite thing to do, ask for a divorce of separation with the belief that since we are on the road to dissolution, that I have no leverage to influence her anymore, with a pattern of remorse and crying for reconciliation. Yes, this is a venting post. Now, while I didn't adamantly demand rights for her to respect me as a husband in our argument, I did say that under God's eyes we are still married and that my conscience wouldn't allow me to not voice my concerns that she may be headed down the wrong path, as we have been very faith-based. But no, she says she is fine, is staying accountable to her therapist. Not starting a relationship as she agreed with therapist, not a good idea. But even if I was in a new relationship, it is none of your business. I counter with, so you are moving on. You are talking with other men. Which gets her mad and she storms off. Later we smooth things out, but I reaffirm that I am not trying to harangue her about staying in the marriage. Not making it about us or me. But I am at least trying to be her Christian brother and am worried about her drifting away. She says she no longer wants to talk about religion, a term she uses to depersonify and detach from what she once believed and lived out as having a relationship with Christ. Another pattern, and says again it is not my place. I say that I believe it is my place, however. I will respect the boundary she set and I will not bring it up again. But if she wants to talk, I am available. She says thank you. Conversation ends and we part just fine. Of course, what does she tell other man? I flew in a rage, punched holes in wall. What? This is the first time she had ever talked bad about me that I know of. And especially to lie as to say I attacked her verbally and lost control as to punch at the walls. I am beside myself. Who did I marry? Who are these women that I have known for almost 20 years? I know her purpose isn't trying to build a court case that I am abusive, as we have not contested anything. So, I am assuming that she is trying to build sympathy and I suppose bring out the white knight in them for her game. She already texted that she had a health visit to urgent care. Not true, and other white lies. I guess that is what I get for monitoring her little trysts. But it has helped me to navigate around this raging water, so I'll continue just keep holding my cards close. I guess I need to make sure to pull in my hands and feet in the boat to avoid them getting bashed in these rapids, as the ride hasn't ended yet. I wondered if I may have tipped her off about my monitoring, but she is such in the fog and I have been acting so aloof and friendly that she thinks I am pretty much a clueless idiot, and has done nothing really to cover her tracks. If we didn't need to stockpile cash, I'd force her out now after this. But for now, I am going to be very guarded. I'm still blown away by her lie. I don't trust her words at all now, which is why I have to keep my enemy close and monitor this until we part ways. Good news is now that we've filed, I have the temporary restraining order on my side, so she is not allowed to do anything funny with her finances, which is basically my main concern. Other good news is that because of bankruptcy, cancer, and whatnot, we are living with my parents, meant to be temporary, that there can be no corroboration to her lie to OM that I went on a rage and punched holes in the wall. 1. Parents always home and were home during our talk and can prove there was no argument of that magnitude, or of any magnitude. In fact, I never raised my voice, just spoke what was on my conscience in respect. 2. No holes in walls. I do have a VAR, so yes, I'll be recording conversations here on out and basically avoiding any further unnecessary interactions. On a physical plane, the lies she says is so out of character. But considering her affair partners have all been a part of her online video gaming, I think she created a reality and paradigm of her own with them, creating her ideal persona, and is using it to elicit the types of reactions from men she is looking for. She has been adept at creating narratives of her life to encourage certain responses. The guy she told the lie to live all the way across the country, the guy who lives about 5 hours away. She didn't tell him that lie, and is the one she is really getting serious with. They have not met because she is coming off like she is playing coy. But in reality, she is trying to drastically lose weight before she meets him face to face. No new developments, and that is a good thing. Other good news is that she is so sprung on her LTR that she hasn't been giving me any new grief. We are completely living separate lives, although we are under the same roof. I am getting a bone biopsy tomorrow and will be doing a skeletal survey sometime as well. If it all pans out, I'll start looking for work. Still, June 15th is divorce day, and STBX has already a place lined up to move into by then. So, nothing has changed. Still just toughing it out to stockpile cash. So, I am going to do my best not to torpedo the situation by losing my cool. She is a smooth one, I tell you. Really is on cloud 9 and in some major fog denial. She is totally turning this guy into a white knight, dragging him into being her addiction recovery support partner. Yet is still having phone time with him, and he is a professed addict as well. How inappropriate is that? Two married people, both with sunken marriages, secretly having a very heated oh yes, that is an ideal candidate for therapeutic support. As for her desire to let's be friends, at least that has gone out the window. There are some areas which we still will need to cooperate with each other. But she really has no clue to what degree I will be writing her out of my life. Yet, she doesn't concern herself with such petty things, as she is solely thriving from the addictive euphoria. Yet it's funny how it just disables her ability to function anywhere else. They haven't professed love to each other yet, but lots of talk and angling concerning not wanting to let each other go. She told me she is thinking of moving eventually to other set of state in a year or two, where this guy lives. I just ask, why? Just to see what her face looks like when it lies. Oh, just so I can live near water. 2 more months to go until finalization. Things are still somewhat copacetic, although I am still maintaining some distant monitoring. She has not been making any major lies, but enough white lies to make it look like I am pining and bitter. Basically, gunning to elicit a specific response from OM, keeping VAR by my side from now on. I am pretty busy these days, lots of volunteer time and spending time with some supportive friends. I have identified 4 target goals that I am actively working towards, but I do need to be more serious about creating a target for exercise and eating right. I don't eat horrible or even a lot, but it couldn't hurt to do more weight training and be more intentional with my meals. There are so many more important things going on in the world than being offended by my STBX, who is pretty much someone I don't even recognize anymore. I don't even feel mad at her anymore. I just can't have this sort of person in my life. 30-day countdown until move-out day. Very surreal this is happening. Like I am emerging from a very long bad dream. Very much looking forward to my new life, which to a large degree has already begun. New friends, new experiences, new goals. Still, last night, I had a dream that I was lambasting my STBX over her willful ignorance and mocking her that OM has a tiny X, which actually is true. In the dream, she broke down in shame and started sobbing. I take it means I still have some anger and looking for satisfaction, and that bouncing back is going to take time, in spite of how involved and active I have been. My STBX, on the other hand, is planning for her future life with Mr. Tiny Penis. Ironic that my wife was the one wanting to be dominated, but now has been redirected to accommodate a grown man's desire to have his PP shamed like a child. Folks, I can't make this stuff up. Again, I am happy to soon be far away from all of this. I have still been wearing the ring, in a way that I was still honoring my vow. But today, being my final official anniversary with STBX, I have just removed the ring. I don't mean that I am jumping back into the market, it just means that I have done my time. Just going to keep on pressing forward. STBX has moved out today, feeling a myriad of emotions. Not really able to do much today. Can't focus. I am holding it together, but this is tough. I always thought it was going to be hard, but then entered a season of looking forward to it. But these last few weeks I have certainly felt a dread and emptiness. Narrowly avoided a rebound situation. I say narrowly because I did make out with a woman emerging from a similar predicament after too much wine together a few days ago. She is being the initiator and I the willing participant, but pulled myself away before going too far. I have since then gone back and communicated to her that I can't do that. Not sure if we will be able to successfully revert back to platonic friendship, which I desire. And she says she will accept my boundaries, but I am thinking it will be unlikely and I will have to release that friendship. Drunk and lonely is not a good combination. I was hesitant to mention this here, but there are very few people I know that I would share this with. That didn't help with these overwhelming feelings, just adding more complication to the pile of my crumbling life. Divorce being finalized on Monday. I'm such a mess. I feel like I am coming out of a storm cellar after a destructive tornado. Looking at all of the aftermath, my STBX has cleared out and now there is just a trickle of things that she left behind. Being with her, it has always been chaotic. Her being someone who was never contented, always having a reason to pen things when there was no reason. I think my emptiness has a lot to do with codependency. As I had occupied myself with managing that tornado for so long, now the storm has passed and I have to rebuild, and not look for another tornado to lasso. So basically, I am now tasked with pulling myself together and finding out who I am. I have enjoyed making new friends and volunteering at my church and with a local teen organization. My pastor had already noted I have been blue lately and have been supportive through this big change in my life. Still, I am feeling the temptation to fall away and disappear, as my emotions are hard to manage, and whenever you deal with people, there are challenges, which, right now, I am too sensitive to want to deal with them. But I have been staying in the game. I feel like I am coming out of a storm cellar after a destructive tornado. Looking at all of the aftermath, my STBX has cleared out and now there is just a trickle of things that she left behind. Being with her, it has always been chaotic. Her being someone who was never contented, always having a reason to pen things when there was no reason. I think my emptiness has a lot to do with codependency. As I had occupied myself with managing that tornado for so long, now the storm has passed and I have to rebuild, and not look for another tornado to lasso. So basically, I am now tasked with pulling myself together and finding out who I am. I have enjoyed making new friends and volunteering at my church and with a local teen organization. My pastor had already noted I have been blue lately and have been supportive through this big change in my life. Still, I am feeling the temptation to fall away and disappear, as my emotions are hard to manage, and whenever you deal with people, there are challenges, which, right now, I am too sensitive to want to deal with them. But I have been staying in the game. Got a lot accomplished today, getting finances and things in order. Just going to take this new reality one day at a time. I must confess I am exhausted after all of this, some being emotional exhaustion and the rest being from lack of sleep. Still, lots of affairs to put into order, but so far so good. I really want to take a nap now, but not quite done. Couple months later, I am picking up the pieces. My local divorce care group compares it to cleaning up after a tornado devastation. Major cancer treatment also added more destruction across the board in my life. So, with the divorce occurring during my recovery period, things have been overwhelming. Fortunately, I have been moving forward a bit at a time, getting involved into things I enjoy. Lots of volunteering. 2 years since my diagnosis, I haven't worked. But I walked into the doors of my former employer on Tuesday, and today, I just got hired. It is a job of limited duty compared to my last position, but I specifically aimed it this way to get back into the momentum. Still, after a health event, bankruptcy, and divorce, it is daunting. Even more daunting is the reality of contending with new relationships. I have been married 18 years, and I'll admit I'm not bad looking and am a pleasant person. Yet being married helped keep the women at a distance. I don't have that anymore, and I am already very keen to how careful I have to be not to give anyone the wrong impression, as I have had difficulty this summer setting boundaries with someone who has feelings that I don't reciprocate. No, I did not sleep with her. The idea of getting into a relationship still freaks me out. Like major anxiety, I know I'm far from ready, and I don't care if I'll ever be. Still, getting back into the workplace will be a confidence builder for me, as 2 years' time had been slowly chipping away at my esteem. But my energy is back and I think I am ready to rejoin life. Going to work in a couple of hours. Graveyard shift, and I am fine with that. I just need to clock hours and have space to think, and some structure to build my life around. Tried to sleep as much as I could today to gear up, but I know it will be brutal those last few hours, being my very first shift back on the job. After church in the I am going to pass out. Man, there is only so much time in a day. Post-divorce, I feel like I am coming out of a bad trip, or an addiction. That marriage had been such a source of chaos that needed constant attending. That now that I look at my life minus all of that, I see so much that I have to learn and to figure out for myself. I realize I don't really have the ability to be a good friend, much else be in a relationship. And I feel like have to be able to maintain friendships at least before anything else. And before friendships, I have to be able to maintain my own life. The other night, I bumped into a woman I had known 6 years back. We both knew each other, married back then, now both divorced, so it was odd seeing each other. And I sensed some mutual attraction as we were catching up, but I felt myself recoiling from suggesting further contact and just pretty much left that situation without looking back. I don't know why this issue keeps coming back to my mind, because how much I am committed to being single for now. But I think it is because I wanted a deep connection for so long. But I also think I am still contending with the void for all intents and purposes, and I am not looking to use others to fill a void. Half a year later, I had engaged in a lot of volunteer work and had finally returned to work about 4 months ago after a long recovery from multiple myeloma, blood cancer residing within the bone marrow, and a stem cell transplant. My shoulder started hurting a month or so ago, but I thought it could have been a rotator cuff issue. Aside from that, some unwanted measurements started showing up in my blood labs that showed some myeloma activity after close to 2 years of dormancy. There were some discrepancies in the labs, so I inquired the specialist 2 weeks ago about what could do that, and she mentioned a tumor, and I knew it had to be my shoulder. I was right. Going to have shoulder treated with radiation. Going to change up my chemo to a strong combo to knock down cells, and aim for yet another stem cell transplant. Stormy seas ahead, but I am pretty much at peace with everything. I just hate the thought of leaving work again. I also am bummed about my life being arrested because of cancer. 2 months later, no new developments. Just taking care of things as they fall on my plate. Treatment is going fine. My current chemo regimen is a newer drug than what I initially used, so the side effects are less. I mostly just deal with lack of energy, but I haven't had to leave work. I am going to try to stay with work for as long as I can before having to go to Seattle for the stem cell transplant. In 2 months, maybe. I still volunteer with several things, but others I have had to let go for the time being. It's been 9 months being divorced now, and I have been largely contented with being on my own, but I have just been walloped over the head with the threat of a new relationship. About half a year later, I'm about 3 months past my second transplant now. Going to have some thorough testing this week to see where I'm at. The transplant went remarkably well. I recovered so much more quickly this time. I'm really beside myself about it. Expecting good news, and hopefully the clock has been considerably reset to buy more time and hopefully hang on until curative treatments surface. Been extremely busy these last few months. My girlfriend, now fiancé, has already seen me at my worst and yet had stuck by my side. She really knocked down some walls that I had built to protect myself from the damage done to me by my ex-W. Didn't think those walls would be there, but they certainly revealed themselves as my fiancé was relentless in getting close. Unfortunately, she is from India and had to return just yesterday. Lots to do to make arrangements. Another half a year later. Not married yet, but the whole visa process has gone smoothly so far with no problems with my petition, and it is getting approved. Just waiting to hear word for when my fiancé's interview at the consulate will be scheduled. Was not at all looking to be married, and neither was she. I know her family at my church and she happened to be visiting, and being of similar age and experience, we just hit it off. Nuts, I tell you. As for my health, I am still doing okay. My second stem cell transplant did nothing for me, and it wasn't too long when my numbers were the same as they were before I started. Attempted a clinical trial, but again, did nothing for me. But for now, the multiple things still under control with a standard cocktail. Just not sure what the next steps will be at this stage. If we get more aggressive, then we are looking at some elevated risks. And I can't do chemo forever. The answer will come. My comment, I hope OP keep going strong and see what life has to offer. You guys like this ending? Subscribe, and prepare for one more video in a few hours.